Hey, y'all. Welcome back to the Champagne Wives podcast. I'm your host, Kelly.
And I'm your co-host, Nicole. Hey, Cal.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. You were so
Awesome.
serious when you started it.
Was I?
Welcome back to the show.
You know what? I had an energy drink
Okay.
and I needed a boost. So
Mm-hmm.
I drank an energy drink.
Mm-hmm.
And so I feel good on the inside, but I feel very calm.
Right.
It's a new energy drink. It's like a natural
Uh-huh.
energy drink
Okay.
and natural ingredients, but it works like really well.
Mm.
Yeah.
So energy drinks I'm like on the fence with. Like I'm afraid that
So
my
yeah,
heart's
I
going to pop out of my chest.
No, this is really good. That's why I
Okay.
did my research. I Googled like
Mm.
just healthy, natural
Mm.
energy drinks that
Yeah.
are like clean.
Okay.
And so, I was big on a certain brand. And then I heard that exactly that, right? Like people were just like, no, don't drink this.
Right.
Like even though they market it as
Mm-hmm.
clean and organic, it's really not. And
Yeah.
so I had to search, child, because I need energy. Like not every day,
Mm-hmm.
particularly on like Mondays. Yeah. And even
Mondays are long days for us.
Mondays,
Yeah.
and they're not necessarily long days. It's just like a case of the Mondays all the time. It's like regardless of what I have to do, I could not have anything to do,
Mm.
but still feel like case of the Mondays.
Really?
Yeah. I always need to pick me up on Mondays.
Monday's a long day for me. Just from 7 a.m. to
Really?
whenever we wrap this. Yeah. Lots of meetings. But like my whole morning is like stacked with meetings. So
Really?
by the time we do this, unfortunately, I feel like the juice is squeezed fully out of the lemon. But
we talked about other days and
this one
we
works.
both agreed that Mondays were the best. I'm like the rest of my week is great. It's fantastic. Like Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday
Right.
are lovely.
Well, we do this for y'all, right?
Yeah.
Like we do this for y'all so that we can get that Thursday drop.
Oh yeah,
That's really the reason why we do it on Mondays.
Yeah.
So that we can watch, review, drop, think about how we want to like promo,
Yeah.
content, all that stuff.
That's true. Good call out. I forgot about that.
People.
Yeah.
People. How was your weekend?
It was a good weekend. I really didn't do much, which is really why I'm really confusion about why I have the case of the Monday.
Right.
I didn't do nothing then, and I had one meeting today.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, what the? Why am I so tired? But it was good. How about you?
Good. Did a little bit of sorority stuff on Friday, then Saturday. It was a rainy day. It started off rainy in the morning, which was nice. Could like
The
sleep
afternoon was
in.
beautiful.
Yeah, it was the best of both worlds.
It was.
It was a rainy morning.
Yeah.
And then it was a beautiful
sunny afternoon. Yeah.
Perfect.
It was.
Perfect.
Did you get out on Saturday?
Yeah, we did.
Okay.
We got out and we moved around. And then on Saturday night, took the kids to Play Place.
Mm-hmm.
They ran around and we had birthday parties. So it was an easy weekend, a little bit of soccer, a little bit of birthday celebrations for the kids' friends. And here we are.
Yeah. I did something on Saturday too with the kids. It was just such a pretty day.
Mm-hmm.
And I think during a previous episode, I was like, I owe my kids an outing.
Right.
So, but it was just so easy because my kids didn't even want to go. I'm like, come on, let's go. Like I had to force them to come because sometimes they like to sit inside and like watch their tablets. But
I know. Yeah. Mine too. And like I'm trying to get like my daughter already needs glasses, and I don't know if she got that poor eyesight from her daddy or if like that's because she's been staring at a screen since she was at a young age. But like I'm trying to get them to deal more with the 3D versus the 2D.
Yeah.
But they love their programming. They love their Netflix kids shows.
Yeah.
They love YouTube Kids. And my thing is like
Roblox.
Right. Roblox, Fortnite, Madden, FIFA. They love all the things on the screen, but I'm trying to get them to experience more of like what's happening in the real world. So I had to establish some new ground rules in the house. No tablets in the morning. We have to get certain things done before we get tablets in the evenings. So.
Yeah. Same. I give them a little time in the evening because they have their tablets, but like it's always an imbalance, right? Like when I want to stay inside, that's when they're like, I want to go outside. And then when I'm like, let's go outside, they're like, I want to stay inside. I'm just like, Come on.
I could be outside by the pool and I'm like,
Yeah.
hey, babe, you want to come outside?
Well,
And my
they've been
daughter wants to
asking
be in
about
my
that. I'm like,
driveway.
it's still water is so cold. Not the weather, but the water.
Yeah,
So
I'm
cold.
not
Yeah.
paying $100 to heat the pool for you to be in
Yeah.
it for 20 minutes.
Exactly. No, we're not doing that. But yeah. So
Not
same
doing that.
here. Just got out a little bit on the weekend, but other than that, it was really good.
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool. So today, we're going to talk a little bit about settling in a relationship and how do you know if you're settling and how do you prevent that man, that woman, that person, that partner from wasting your time. And this has the potential to be a really heavy conversation. I don't know if it has to be.
It doesn't have to be heavy.
It can be heavy. I mean, but we'll figure out a way to make it manageable.
Yeah. It's a safe space. The space is safe.
And all of you and my good sis.
Yes.
It's a safe space. Yeah, so settling is the concept of settling. I think for just definition's sake, as you know, I haven't said this in a long time, but I love a good definition. But settling within the context of a relationship might mean that you are making concessions in order to stay in a relationship that aren't necessarily ideal for you.
Yeah.
And those concessions can look like a number of things, right? They could be concessions around someone's physical appearance. It could be concessions around how someone treats you, how someone talks to you. Concessions can look like a lot of different things for a lot of different people. But if you painted your ideal partner, concessions for the most part would be you not necessarily having, I guess, that person meet that standard. Is that it? That makes sense?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's what we're defining settling as. So we're all level set for the purposes of this conversation. But how do you know you're settling in a relationship? How do you know and why is it important to acknowledge if you're settling in a relationship?
And then why are you settling in a relationship?
Yeah.
Too.
Yeah. Why are you willing to?
Why are you willing to
settle?
Yeah.
And
I don't want to get it confused because there's settling and then there's compromise.
Big difference.
Yes.
Huge difference.
Yeah.
Would you care to elaborate on the difference between those?
I'm just saying, like, settling. Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't think that I thought that maybe you had another point. Okay. Okay. I was giving you the space to speak openly. No, I'm just saying, like, be careful about just, I think someone said, Anwar said, like, he took the term red flag from his vocabulary, right?
Yeah.
Because certain things are not necessarily red flags, but they're just, personality traits based off of a person's experiences, how they were raised, etc. That may have worked fine for one, other, or multiple relationships, but may not necessarily be right for you and what your desires are. And so I just wanted to put that out there as well. Like, which is difficult to make, I guess, the to differentiate sometimes, right?
Yeah.
But I think maybe where we can draw the line at is the communication, right? So if you if a person does something, right, that doesn't necessarily sit well in your spirit, if you communicate that, how open or receptive are they to one, listen, and then change or modify said behavior?
Yeah. Communication is key to at least making sure that you guys are both on the same page. I agree. And I think going back to the point around compromise, when you're compromising, you gotta have there's certain prerequisites. The major prerequisite in my mind is the ability to self-reflect, right? Because if you are required to compromise, you have to be asking yourself, am I standing 10 toes down on this because this is just what I want, or or does it make sense? Or am I going to be better by taking in the different perspective or applying or willing to accept the different perspective here? sometimes there's just no compromise. And like when it comes
Yeah.
to, your safety, if you have kids, the safety of your kids, your value, your self-respect, your dignity, there's no compromise if any of those are being called into question. So, full disclaimer there. Like for me, that's a full stop, right?
Yeah.
If I'm feeling less than
Mm-hmm.
that, like we don't compromise on that.
Right.
Like I communicate, and if you can't realize that this is an issue for me, then, we'll have to agree to disagree.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thanks, but no thanks.
And I think that would be labeled as abuse. Not to laugh at abuse, but
no, but
I mean,
yeah.
that's if there's a spectrum,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
That's on like from 0, meaning
Yeah.
like everything is copacetic and you
Mhm.
guys get along fine and
Mhm.
they're respectful and loving and all the things that you want to
Yeah.
like they make you feel less than. That's like borderline abuse. But I think what we want to talk about is just kind of like the in between.
Yes.
The
The
in-between.
assuming everything else is fine,
Yeah.
right? Like you feel safe, all that great stuff, emotionally and physically and
Mhm.
mentally. How do you know you're settling?
Yeah. And it's just sometimes it's just the BS
Mhm.
that women deal with
Mhm.
for the sake of being in a relationship or any other reasons, right? Like for you know, the fact of just maybe not being alone
Mhm.
or, time
Yeah.
or whatever the case may be, a desire for I don't know, like a warm body.
Mhm. Right, yeah,
Do you know what I mean?
companionship. Somebody's better than nobody,
Exactly.
right?
Exactly.
So, yeah. So as many of you know, or maybe you don't know, I came into this place, into this journey, married. That is not my situation today. And this podcast, I was telling somebody, but that this podcast, we're sitting here looking at cameras, talking to each other,
Mhm.
and having these conversations. But season 1, season 2, I realized that I was having conversations with myself, especially as we started talking about like the topics
Yeah.
related to relationships and what do we value, what do we want, what do we need, what makes us feel safe. And when I realized personally that I was actually talking to the man in the mirror, the woman in the mirror,
Right.
right? It forced me, as you know, I always say, to take stock and take inventory of my own personal relationship and to ask myself the question, am I settling?
Mhm.
And I don't know, to jump to the end, I won't go so far to say that I settled.
Yeah.
But I would say as we walk through some of the questions that you need to ask yourself to ultimately come to the conclusion as to whether or not you settled or you are settling, there was an equal number of yeses and nos, right? As I was going through my own process. And I think that we always say, make sure you are in the pursuit of your own happiness.
Yeah.
And when I realized how I felt, and I realized how I was showing up for my kids, for my friends, for my family, I will say that I had moments,
Yeah.
right, where I realized, you are settling,
Yeah.
and it's not because this person isn't a great human being. It was really just because of a lack of compatibility at the end of the day. So what we're going to talk about and what I'm specifically going to talk about is tried, it's true, it's tested. And if you find yourself in this situation or questioning whether or not like you're with the right person, if this applies, use it. If it doesn't, that's okay.
Yeah. And I think, that's a good point to be your situation is a different example because when we think naturally about like settling in a relationship, you think about, the other person doing something that offends, right? The person who ends up, settling in the relationship. And that's not always the case.
Right.
Settling can absolutely be about, your own desires and, the fire and the passion to be and do something different, right? And so that's a really great call out because it's not always just a bad or a
Right.
negative situation. Sometimes, there really are no red flags,
Mm-hmm.
right? But, the desire that lies within you is stronger than the current situation that you're in,
Yeah.
right? And at that point, you have to make the decision whether or not you're going to be true to yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep. Sometimes all the flags can be green.
Yeah.
But like they're green flags for somebody else and just
Yeah.
not you.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So first things first.
Mm-hmm.
Are you compatible with this person? Is this person the yin to your yang?
Mm.
Does this person pick up where you feel weak? Do they pick up and are they able to be strong and vice versa?
Yeah.
Compatibility is probably, I won't say it's one of the most underrated things that we look for in a relationship, but I think when you're young, you look for somebody who shares the same interests, who wants to do the same things that you do. And the reality is, and we've said this before, like, we don't want our partners to be our best friends.
Yeah.
Like, that's not what we're looking for.
Yeah.
There needs to be a symbiotic relationship that
Mhm.
exists between you and your partner, because you both can't carry the same weight
Correct.
constantly.
Correct. And we always say this, but like a little healthy tussle,
Mhm.
right? Because, when, two people are in a relationship and the dynamic is different for each individual, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes it's you're gonna butt heads, right? You're not going to agree on everything. You're going to get upset. But I think, if you compatibility in a situation like that is again where you are, I'm gonna say weak for a lack of a better
Mhm.
word, right? Then
Yeah.
that person is that's where that person really shows up and
Mhm.
vice versa.
Yeah.
And so I think, but the key, right, to making a situation like that work where there are just, a lot of differences, but they work is again communication,
Mhm.
right? And being just completely honest with that person
Mhm.
about, your feelings towards, whatever is going on in the
Yeah.
relationship, the tussle, the disagreement, the
Mhm.
argument, whatever the case may be, how a person, may have shown up in an instance. I know, for people who are just, natural, leaders or people who like kind of take charge, it can be a little upsetting, right, to a person who kind of likes to fall back.
Right.
Right. So if you're married to or dating a more spontaneous person
Mm.
and like, they schedule a date at the last minute, but you are the type of person that likes to have time to prepare.
To plan.
And so plan,
Right.
like that may be, off-putting or a little upsetting. But I think that again, there is a balance,
Mhm.
right? So maybe,
Mhm.
sometimes you can, have the spontaneity,
Mhm.
right? And, look at it from a positive perspective and say, you know what, this is helping me
Right.
come outside of my box. It's
Mhm.
helping me, gain another skill.
Right.
But if it's something that happens all the time,
Yeah.
then okay, it's becoming a little problematic, right? So then that's when the conversation needs to happen, right? Like I love the spontaneity, babe,
Right.
like, and here's why. However, I would also like for there to be some opportunities for
Mhm.
us to plan a date in advance,
Mhm.
right? That's
Yeah.
kind of what the conversation should look like at
Yeah.
that point. So yeah, that was my take on that.
Yeah.
Different points.
Compatibility, I agree completely. And I think just compatibility is, I don't know, like I have found that like I show up at my best when I have people that I am compatible with outside of relationships. Like I think about our friendship and our dynamic, and I think about the dynamic I have with like my childhood friend that I grew up with, and we are different spirits, we're different animals, but she sees things through a lens that I don't see things
Yeah.
through, and just like you do, and I'm better for it.
Yeah.
So compatibility is a huge one. Next one, are you emotionally fulfilled?
Yes.
Whew, we've talked about this. If you've been a ride or die with CWP, we have talked about this multiple times, but emotional fulfillment.
Yeah.
Is your emotional cup filled? And do you feel genuinely happy, supported, loved, encouraged by the person that you're with? Um, if you if the answer to any of those questions is no,
Mhm.
take pause.
Yeah.
Take a break. Because emotional fulfillment is, in my mind, one of the it's like the bedrock of a relationship.
Mhm.
And if you don't feel like you have that emotional safety or that emotional fulfillment or connection with a person, um, when everything starts to sag, and as I've said before, when gravity does its thing, what are you leaning on? What do
Mhm.
you have to support you and to hold you up in relationship? So, yeah.
Yeah. And I will say this just from my perspective
Mhm.
too, like, yes, emotional availability is very important.
Mhm.
Um, but sometimes you may not get it all the time,
Mhm.
right? And so I think it's at that time it's good to take stock of, the ways in which your partner has shown up for you
Mhm.
because, you know, when you're talking about doing life with somebody,
Mhm.
yes, emotion is great. Yes, that feeling is great. That rush is great. But what's even greater is that person going to be there for you through like the many challenges that life is going to bring. Like when
Mhm.
you're talking about doing life with someone, you guys are going to be together and witness and see and hold each other through just a multitude of life events,
Mhm.
right? And so sometimes it takes not necessarily emotions in terms of like the the oh baby this or
Mhm.
let me how
Mhm.
can I you know make you happy all the time, right? How can I make you happy
Mhm.
today? Or
What do you need
what
from
do you
me?
need from
Yeah.
me?
Mhm.
Or like, how can I be of service to you? But sometimes you're just going to, it's good to know that just somebody's going to have your back
Mhm.
regardless.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, and again, they may not be the most emotional person, but you know that the person is solid,
Mhm.
right? And
Right.
so again, not to say that you have to be in a position where, you're starving for the emotional piece and the emotional connection, because again, but I just wanted to provide context and balance
Yeah.
to that because there are a lot of situations and relationships where people are just like they're lovey-dovey. I mean, you see it online. They're
Mhm.
lovey-dovey
Yeah.
and they're, posting hard eyes and kissy faces and
Yuck.
literally I had a
So much.
girlfriend and I will not call my girlfriend's name. Um, but she had a boyfriend at the time. This was many, many years ago. And he was just so emotionally in tune with
Mhm.
her. He wanted to be with her all the time. He was, just whatever it is that she needed, he was at her beck and call. And I was just like, wow, this is great. I mean, she was it's so funny. We were at her house and like she tripped down the stairs.
Oh.
And he ran over to her like like the Prince Charming, the knight in shining armor. He ran over to her to like try to break and catch her fall from her
Mhm.
falling. And I was just like, whoa, like, okay, like this man really loves this woman. Like
Mhm.
he's doing he has to do to make sure that like he really shows her that like how much he loves her. But when I tell you that relationship crashed and
Burn.
burned
Oh god.
so quickly,
Mm.
um, it did. It was quite hilarious. And then, again,
Sounds tragic.
it was very tragic. Yeah, it was. I'm sorry, not hilarious. I'm not gonna say hilarious. It wasn't hilarious, but it was just like, well, dang, what happened? And they had
Right.
like, a child together, and then the challenges that brings
Yeah.
when have a child outside of wedlock sometimes with the wrong person, and so he went from being like overly emotionally available to just completely cold and vindictive.
Mm.
So just wanted to, again, provide a different perspective
Yeah.
and kind of just balance out the emotions piece of it. Um, because
It
it
looks
can go
different.
both ways. Yeah.
Yeah, and it looks different, I think, from person to person.
Yeah.
And you as free thinking and capable individual need to figure out and determine if the way in which a person shows emotional availability and fills your emotional cup
Yeah.
aligns to your needs.
Yeah.
And if it does, great. If it doesn't, you have to ask yourself, or is this something that you're willing to make a
Yeah. It's
compromise
it's
on?
definitely subjective.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
definitely subjective.
Because a person, they could be an entrepreneur, busy, 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 busy,
Mhm.
and not really tuned into
Yeah.
all of your emotional wants and needs. But when they show up,
Yeah.
right? And, you know, you could have somebody who doesn't have a whole lot going on, who's constantly attending to your emotional needs, and damn near that's a little nagging. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm the kind of woman where it's like, be in tune with my emotional needs, but I still need you to be a man.
Yeah.
Like I still
Exactly.
I still need you to be a man.
Right.
Right. And it's not that you lose your manhood by being overly emotional how do we say this? Overly
Attentive.
attentive from an emotional standpoint.
Mhm.
But I don't know, like the healthy tussle needs
Yeah.
to be there.
The
Like
healthy tussle. Yeah.
I still need to know that, like, do you know that I'm upset about this?
Yeah.
And then maybe I need to like have my moment where I'm like, oh, I'm
Yeah.
upset about this, and you're like, oh, babe, I didn't know.
Yeah.
Like, we need to play that out a little bit sometimes. So
Yeah. There's this I guess viral granny that's going around on TikTok.
okay.
So her daughter like puts a camera in her phone, and like asks her questions, like get her reaction.
Oh, she's old.
Yes,
Yeah,
old,
okay.
old. And so I just recently saw a video of her, and her daughter asked her, like, what would you consider like a romantic date, right? And her first response was, if there was someone else there. Now, mind you, she's married. I don't know how long she's been married for. But her first response was, if someone else is there. And her daughter responded, well, like, what about daddy? Like, if it was daddy, you could plan a romantic date, what would you do? And she was just like, I don't know. And her daughter was like, well, why don't you have an answer for that? And she was just like, because he never pays attention to me. That almost brought a tear to my eye, because how can you live to be that old and be in a relationship and still, have that response when talking about the person that you chose to do life with and raise a family with, like, so, that just showed me that it doesn't get better. Right. So, if you are in a situation where, again, you are being starved emotionally, with the hopes that, eventually things are going to change, I would just recommend, really thinking about long term, if a person, after you've communicated your desires and your needs have not changed, then the probability of them changing
It's pretty slim.
is pretty slim. When you guys are older, then you'll just be like, an older person, man or woman, in a situation where you just aren't happy.
Yeah. Yeah, that's really sad.
That was really sad.
That's really sad. And, she didn't create theatrics or dramatics, right? To like get the attention or garner the attention of her husband. And I would say, if you have to make a scene to get that emotional fulfillment, you're probably settling.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh, yeah.
Because like having to create drama, stir the pot, start fights, pick fights for no damn reason, that's not your person, boo. It's just not your person.
Not, yeah.
So, so number 3, trust and respect. This is self-explanatory in my mind. If you feel like you can respect the person that you're with, if you feel like you can trust the person that you're with, and you feel like they trust and respect you, you're not settling. I mean, I don't know how to break that down anymore.
I mean, that's cut and dry at the end of the day.
Yeah. Personal growth. We've talked about this a lot in these chairs. Are you with somebody who is invested in wanting to see you be the best version of yourself? That, to me, like, there's so much I can say about that. But I feel so strongly about. But are you with somebody who is committed to investing in you, not necessarily like investing in that business, because all that's going around social media too, girls. And like, listen, yes, if you can find somebody who wants to pour into your business and your investment ventures, great. But this is not what that's about. This is about somebody who wants to strengthen you morally, who wants to strengthen you ethically, who wants to strengthen you on the levels that don't necessarily like translate to like financial capital, but do they want to help you become a better person? And if you have somebody who does not care, and when you know like you've stepped in it or you shit the bed and they're just like, well, your loss or your issue to deal with, I don't know. Like, I couldn't.
Yeah.
I couldn't.
And again, it's all subjective, but yes, definitely. I think it's important to have someone, I guess, in your life that has the same values as
Oh,
you,
yeah.
right?
Yep,
And
yep.
so, if you are, focused on and really doing the work to elevate and grow, then obviously it's going to be problematic if you don't have someone who is helping
Well said.
you to attain that. That's only again bringing you down in the pursuit of that. And then also too, like, if neither one of y'all are growing, like somebody got to step up, child, and be like,
someone has to be the adult in the relationship.
Yeah, it's like somebody has to step up and say, like, oh, what are we doing?
Right.
And so I just think that if you don't have someone who is, encouraging that, who is okay with, doing the same things, playing the old tapes, always, have, a defeated attitude, I mean, that is just like not healthy in any regard.
Right.
And so, yeah, definitely though, for those who want more, of a challenge, who want someone who's going to support them, emotionally, spiritually, as well as financially, then, if you are not getting one or all of those things, then that may be a sign of the fact that you're settling. And again, I'm not saying that people can't change, because they absolutely can. But again, can't stress this enough. After you communicate your needs and your desires, and there's still not a change in a person's behaviors, then maybe you want to take stock and inventory on whether or not you are settling for something that you're not, or you don't necessarily want.
Right.
Yeah.
And let's not confuse this with constantly fighting, like someone picking or nagging at you about like how you do something, how you show up. That's not what this is about. We'll go back to this episode, right, with cruise season. And I know there were a lot of opinions about this, but a man that is, or a partner that is genuinely interested and invested in wanting to
Correct.
see you be better.
Yeah.
That's what this looks like.
Yeah.
This is not, why you do this? Why you show
Yeah.
up like that, Nicole? Why you doing this, Nicole? Like
Yeah.
that's not what this is about. So
Yeah.
anybody who wants to pick at you, nag at you, that bomb puss.
Girl,
I
the sex can be bomb. You can give it to him whenever he wants. If he does not want to be kept, he will not be kept.
Nope.
And there's nothing that you can do about it. So don't internalize that.
Right.
And don't try to continue to prove your worth to someone. I'm speaking to men and women here.
Right.
Where it's just never enough. Yeah. Because what you do will never be enough to a person who doesn't want you.
That's so
like
true.
that.
That's so true. And listen, some of us alpha females who have
That ego
have accomplished a lot in life, right? You see the fruit fly? That have accomplished a lot in life, believe that we can change a man's mind.
Yeah.
But we can't. A man that wants to will. And it is our job as women to be the best version of ourselves to attract the men that will. Because the men that will,
you won't have to convince.
You won't have to convince. You're going to have to ask yourself, is this too good to be true?
Yeah. And
this is firsthand experience. So trust and believe, a man that wants to will. We talked about this one already. The next one, communication. Is the communication, is it open? Is it honest? Is it consistent? Does it happen even in the hardest of times when you feel like your instincts want to have you just shut down and retreat? Is the communication still there? And do you have a partner that encourages you to speak your voice, even in the hard times? That if you have somebody who doesn't care about your opinion, who doesn't value what it is that you have to say, who intimidates you when you speak up or invalidates anything that you do say, when there's a disagreement or even when things are fine, you're settling.
Yeah. I mean, look, I don't want to come off, that comes off as a little judgy.
It is judgy.
It is judgy. It is.
But all you have at the end of the day in a relationship is communication.
True. That's true.
You know?
That's
so
true.
If you are
doing the work and you are taking the steps to communicate and then you are being shut down. Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes, that's the context.
That's the context, yes. Because I don't know, when you're not able to communicate your feelings, truly, it chips away at you.
It does.
And it just withers away at your soul at the end of the day. And I know it sounds minute and insignificant, but it does. To be in a relationship with someone who you love and who says love you, when you don't have a voice or you lose your voice, especially if you are a, strong, happy, independent woman, it can absolutely take away your light in your soul.
Yeah.
And so in the context of that, communication is being able to communicate is very, being able to being able to communicate, being heard, being understood in a relationship are very important. Yeah. And I just think that, I don't think a lot of people put a lot of, I guess, value on just how damaging that can be to, especially a woman's spirit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I know in my relationship, one thing about me, I'm a communicator child. Like,
are.
My Venus is in Gemini. We gonna talk. You gotta lick my brain. That's the way to my heart.
And how do you approach? You're like, we need to talk. How do you approach conversations? Are you just like, hey, can I talk to you for a minute?
I mean,
or are you like, hey, we need to talk? And men don't like when you say, hey, we need to talk.
Yeah, I don't create situations for us to talk, but like, I mean, because I know he watches the podcast, so I don't want to put all my all my strategy out there. But I think that, like, I drop nuggets.
Yeah.
Right. And like I'm throwing balls right over the plate. So like you have no choice but to swing. And
so you're like just out there with it.
Yeah.
So you're like, this bothered me, or
yes, and vice versa, right? So like if something bothers me, that hurt my feelings. Like when this happened, that hurt my feelings.
It's about how you say it.
Yeah.
It's about how you say it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
For sure.
Yes.
Word choice.
See, that's why I'm asking you. Exactly.
Word choice is so important. Yeah. And at the end of the day, like, I'm a female and I'm a sensitive female at that. So I'm not, it's not an act. If something is said to me, whether it comes from a friend or it comes from a partner and it hurts my feelings, I'm going to say it hurt my feelings.
Yeah.
And that it bothered me. And that's the space for us to talk about it.
Yeah.
And I am also one who is going to ask the question, how did that make you feel?
Yeah.
Like, I am always asking, how did that feel?
Yeah.
How do you feel? That seems like it was an exciting whatever. How do you feel about it? Yeah. Right? Like, I'm always going to do that.
You're gonna return the favors, create the opportunity for your partners to be able to express themselves to you as well.
Yes.
Yeah. See, I think that's very that is operating in like your soft energy and women energy.
Thank you.
I struggle. Like me, I am so sometimes very prideful. Like I do not like to appear to be vulnerable or weak is what I call it, right? but it's really not a weakness.
It's not.
It's not. But
it's not.
For my Virgo ass, like I feel like, it's hard for me to be able to anybody. Run down the list, child.
Yeah.
To be able to say, you know what, said behavior hurt my feelings. And it has taken practice for me on how to be able to express that. And I think a lot of, I guess my caution around doing that was verbiage. Right? Because not having the words to say. And, when I did, it was very abrasive. I mean, you know that.
Love you, friend.
Exactly.
Love you, friend.
Love you too. But so yeah, it's difficult. Communication seems very like you think it's so easy and it's a given, but sometimes in some situations it's just not, especially for me when I'm dealing with my own personal feelings. You know what I mean? Because it takes a level of vulnerability to say to someone, "Hey, what you did hurt my feelings." And so, but you just, have to be able to obviously get over that to be able to effectively communicate and get the desired outcome that you want. But it just doesn't come easy. Like, again, talking to like you and obviously my therapist, like they have like sheets.
They do.
Like
prompts.
Like, if you're in this situation, this is what you say. This is how you approach the conversation. This should be your response. Yeah. To help me to be able to be more effective when I communicate.
Yeah. And there's nothing wrong in sharing how you feel. And the more you do it, the more comfortable you will get with it. When you realize that like that lands and that approach is effective and the desired outcome, which is conversation, came from it, you're like, oh, okay, that wasn't that bad.
Yeah, that wasn't that bad.
That wasn't that bad.
Yeah.
And, I know I was in a situation where I came into a relationship very emotional. Damn near unhinged.
Girl.
And
we've all been there.
Right. We've all been there. We've all had our moments. And then then that person didn't respond to that behavior.
Yeah.
And I had to reel it in. And I over-reeled it in and then became completely silent and would like cry in private or just like would cry on the inside.
Yeah.
Because I realized that emotion didn't work with that person.
Yeah.
And it wasn't like I was using it as a ploy, but just like that person didn't respond to emotion because that person wasn't an emotional being. Like they worked and moved in logic only.
Yeah.
And then I realized I was festering because I didn't have that emotional outlet to communicate in a way that was authentic to me.
Correct.
How I felt.
Yes.
And then when I did, and I realized this still isn't landing, and I'm operating in my authentic emotion, and it's balanced, it's measured, it's safe, and it wasn't landing, I realized, okay, well, this might not be the long-term thing.
Yeah. And that's a great call. Like, that's a great call out because, same, like I think a lot of women struggle with this. Like, we're very emotional. And I think that, in the spirit of trying to keep the peace, keep things going, moving and operating, we, a lot of times keep things to ourselves.
Yes.
And then we don't communicate until we are just fed up to here, right? To the top of our heads with just like anger, resentment, because we've just taken. And so literally we can't take it no more. And then what comes after that? An emotional outburst. Exactly.
Nachos flying across the kitchen.
No.
Child.
Girl, food flying. Girl, everything, the remote.
We've all been there, ladies.
We've all been there, right? Exactly.
We've all been there.
But yeah, so that's I just think that's a great call out because again, so when you were not receiving, as I've been there as well, the response that you wanted, because a lot of times when we do outbursts like that, we just want to be coddled. We want to be, hugged and
loved on.
And then, over, right? We'll forget whatever it is that, that we're
Very
arguing
easy.
about.
We roll it over. And it's just like,
Exactly.
listen, we back
Just
to
hear us
normal.
out, give us a little hug,
Right.
and that again, that does not happen all the time, right? There are some people who do respond, and then there's some people that don't. And I think responding to that too is a slippery slope because you teach people how to treat you, but
Yes.
I'm not. That's not the point I'm trying to make.
That's an important one.
But that's an important one. But yeah, then the next step of that, okay, I'm not getting the response that I want when I react this way, so let me shut down, right? And then that's not healthy either, because again, that chips away at your spirit. It chips away at your voice.
You're drifting away.
And you're exactly. And you're drifting away from your partner. There's a wedge that is being kind of built, but created between you two. So yeah, the happy place is finding the verbiage, finding the language to be able to effectively say what it is that's on your mind. And I think a lot of the times, most people, not just say men, will be able to respond to that, because again, I think that speaks to their own, desire to be with, a woman who is soft, who is able to communicate effectively, while also making it seem that they're saving her. Because I think men like to, obviously, I think if a man loves you, he obviously wants to preserve, do right by you, make sure you're happy. But he also wants to feel like a man too, and strong.
For sure.
And so,
and the worst relationships that I feel like I've been in were ones where I wasn't able to effectively communicate my emotions, and I emasculated men because I was silenced to a place where it was like, by the time I
dark spot,
dark spot, and then all of
a dark place,
right,
in your head.
right, and then you over here, like you're like, wake up the next morning, and you're like, shit.
You feel sick literally the next
morning. Sick to your stomach, and you just want to erase the memory of that night or that afternoon or that moment from your head. And I've realized that I'm a communicator, and the relationships that serve me the best are the relationships where I'm able to communicate my feelings, and there's someone on the other side of that phone or on the other side of the bed that is listening and is wanting to work through it so that we can get to a better place. And
that's open, because they may not agree, but
right, and that's okay.
That's okay to disagree.
We don't have to agree. You could be like, you know what? I respect what you're saying, but I respectfully disagree. And that's okay. We can agree to disagree. Right. But you created space for me to communicate. You heard me.
And you guys can work towards a happy medium. Right. So if you don't agree with this way, I don't agree with it that way, then what is something that we can both agree with?
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. This was a good one. And then and then lastly, comparison. Yeah. That's the last one. And it's not comparing them to someone else, but it's comparing to what you have envisioned for yourself as the ideal relationship. And that comes with a lot of self-awareness and reflection. So understanding what you need to be a thriving person in relationship, and comparing yourself or comparing that person to that ideal partner that allows you to thrive in relationship. They say comparison is a thief of joy. And so it's not comparing your relationship to someone else's relationship. It's comparing the person that you're with to the ideal partner that allows you to be the best in relationship. And if the gap is small, hey, we can close that gap. Yeah. If the gap is a wedge or the gap is the Grand Canyon, we need to take stock in inventory, as we say here. Yeah.
Or if you are truly losing, yourself in the process of the relationships, or the things that you truly desire within the space of the relationship. And, I know we're running long, but it just, as we've been having this conversation, it has reminded me of Chrissy and Jim Jones. So I don't know if you're familiar with their story, but they've been dating for
forever.
Forever. Yeah. And I think that at one point she proposed to him. He turned it down. And then, she wanted to have kids. He didn't, although he already has a child or more. And now she is in her 50s and she's completely changed her tune about the things that she wants. So, oh, well, it's okay if I don't have kids, or it's okay, if I'm not married, So if you're having to make those life altering concessions and changing the true desires of your heart to be with a person and making excuses as to like why this, you're able to give up your dreams to be with this person, I just don't think that that's worth it. To me, that's definitely a case of settling.
Yeah, and self-sacrifice.
Yeah. And I don't know, like just what thought process or what the relationship could be like to have someone be able to make that high level of self-sacrifice for someone else, and we see it every day. And this is a grandeur case, but there are other examples of that happening obviously every day. But you just have to know that there's something else better out there for you. You don't have to settle in a situation that is really not conducive to what you want and or what you desire.
And what you've envisioned for yourself.
What you've envisioned for yourself. There is someone out there who will be able to give you, the true desires of your heart. And I know, no one's perfect, and we've talked about this multiple times over, but when you have to make, again, life-altering concessions, change your whole thought pattern, the way you do things, personality, your circle, when you're being taken away from your circle, your friends, it's just, you have to think about whether or not it's worth it,
Yep. 1,000%. 1,000%. And that obviously for me, like when I'm looking on the outside looking in, and I've watched a lot of Love and Hip Hop New York, so I'm very familiar with these two. That's all about finances, access, all that. Like I think there's a lot of love because she went through and has put up with a lot that, like, at least we saw behind, like, from as viewers. But I think that, as you get older, you start questioning who's going to want me.
Yeah.
Like, who's going to,
will I have a comparable lifestyle?
Right. Like, there's a lot of questions that you start to ask yourself as you get older. And she's probably at a place where she's like, I love this man. I'm embedded in this man's life. This man's embedded in my life. And it's not perfect, but I love him. And I can see Chrissy saying that.
Yeah. Well, and to Anwar's point, the odds are not in our favor.
Unfortunately,
like Black women's favor. But I mean, still, I saw that and I was just I was saddened.
Yeah.
I was saddened by that.
Yeah. And
maybe because it's been televised too,
right.
And you've kind of seen the trajectory of the relationship from like not the beginning, but like very early stages. And when she got down on that one knee and proposed, and
what do we say about that? Season 2.
We're not gonna get back.
Get up, sis.
Get up. But that was before even women proposing was a thing, girl. Like she kicked that off.
Yep.
Full spectrum. I don't know, but it's just it's disheartening to me. I guess at least to kind of see where she is now in her stance.
Had to change.
Yeah.
Had to.
Yeah.
Had to, especially when you're in the industry and you're known as someone's woman, like for that long, like Emily B, Fab's ex, like.
And I believe he broke up with her.
Who, like, after he fixed that tooth.
Yeah.
So, perfect transition into what's popping.
Let's go ahead.
Okay. So speaking of rappers, the Grammys were last night, right? And a lot of winners. We had Victoria Monet, who won for, I think, she won something in her R&B category. SZA won.
Did you watch the Grammys?
I did watch the Grammys.
Oh, okay, I did not.
I did watch the Grammys. Okay. That's like
the
one
whole thing?
Yeah, that's the one award show that I watched, and the red carpet, because...
Oh, you watched the red carpet too?
Yeah, I did. Because like with the Grammys, people tend to be a little bit more free and like authentic and aligned with their personalities in the Grammys. It's not as like stuffy as a red carpet as like the Emmys or the Oscars or even the SAG Awards. So I like to watch the Grammys, and it's us. Like it's us.
Is
like
it though?
It's our people. I mean, more often than not, like you'll see more Black people on the red carpet at the Grammys than you'll see at the Oscars.
Which is why this What's Poppin' is even more atrocious.
So Jay-Z won the award for, it was the Dr. Dre, don't quote us. We're not here for that, child. That's not why y'all tuned in. But he won an award. It was a Black Grammy, all Black Grammy. Normally like they're gold and wood, but this was an all Black Grammy, and it's a Grammy that like Dr. Dre.
It's like the second annual like
awarding of this award, right? So Jay-Z got it.
Yeah.
He had a lot to say.
Yeah.
He had a lot to say when he got up there. Couple of things that I loved about it. Curious to know your thoughts. But love that he got up there. He kissed Beyonce, because we never see any PDA between him and Queen
on the lips too.
On the mouth. He kissed her. Blue Ivy was awkward, per usual, and I love that about her. She's like my daughter.
Little girl.
She's a little girl, and nice and cute and awkward. But he was like, "Come up with me," and she was like, and they
really?
Up.
I missed all of that.
He whispered like,
I didn't watch it.
"Come up with me."
Okay.
And so she went up, and like she was nervous, like not sure where to go, and he took her hand like a father, and took her hand, and they walked up the stage together. And he had this epic speech where he proceeded to shout out Dr. Dre, give thanks, talked a whole lot, but then basically said, you know, y'all are up here giving Grammys to people, and it's crazy that the person who's won the most Grammys in history has not won Album of the Year.
Yeah.
And that's Beyonce.
His wife.
His wife.
The young lady that he was speaking of in the audience.
Yes. And what kind of took me aback, when they panned over to Beyonce, and Beyonce gave the same face that she gave to Kanye when he said, she did, when he said,
Beyonce don't be wanting no smoke. I'm like, Beyonce, she don't be wanting no smoke.
She doesn't, but she gave him the same face that she gave Kanye when he bogarted Taylor Swift's award. And that's a fact. Like, the facts are the facts. And he, like, Jay-Z was like, some of y'all don't even deserve the awards that you got.
Facts. And he also said it's subjective. Yeah. And it is.
It is.
It's very subjective. And you know how I feel about the Carters. You know, I love the Carters. But I'm just not a fan of like begging for a seat at the table. Like, I'm just not. And, you know, at the end of it, he cleaned it up. He was just like, continues to just do the work, continue to show up, right? And then they'll call you, you know, the best to ever do it, the GOAT and this and that.
Yeah.
So I wholeheartedly agree with that. But, I mean, you know who these people are. I don't know. Like, I'm just like, what level of validation, right, is this award? Right. I mean, I understand it's something that like maybe you want just to have the bragging rights, but it doesn't necessarily impact your mark, your money, your fans.
It certainly doesn't.
You know, and so, you know, this has been something, you know, according to him, that has been going on since the 80s. We're in 2024. Like, they're Black space.
It's institutionalized.
It's institutionalized at this point. Like, it's subjective. You know, these people are going to, whoever these people are, I think they tried to diversify the board at one point. You know, it just, you know, when are we going to say, you know what, it is what it is, and just take it for what it is? Right.
This
isn't
our place. Or create our own.
The fact that Beyonce has not won Album of the Year has no bearing on the level of respect that I have for her and who she is as an artist.
Or her bag.
Nothing. And I think there are millions of people around the world who can agree with me on that, right? But if it's a personal goal of hers, I get it. I can get why, you know, it's important to nag that. But for me, I would just be like, girl, it is what it is. Like, I would not be trying to make a point to these people anymore than the points that have already been made.
Well, think about how many people have won Album of the Year, Record of the Year, and we've never heard of them.
Exactly.
Before they got nominated and they won, and even after.
Yeah.
Like, so I don't know if it's
and
like
there are Black spaces.
Right.
There are Black awards
Yeah.
that, we can create value for ourselves.
Yeah.
The fact that these award shows don't have value, I think it's placed on the fact that we just don't support them. I
Yeah.
think there's enough star power within the Black
That's a good
community that we can make our own the shit. And we've done that from time over time. Like where we are
Right.
is where the culture is where the popularity is where the
wallet
coolness
share is.
Exactly. And there are spaces for us to be able to do that. So to continue to ask the Grammys for something, I'm just like, why?
Yeah. No, that's an interesting and very interesting perspective. I didn't really think about it like that, but that's true. Like at the end of the day, I don't know what they call the Academy, not the Academy, but the nominating board and the voting board is the voting board. And they're going to choose who they want to choose. Taylor Swift won so many freaking awards and she looked like she was on some drugs. Like, I don't know. She was looking crazy.
She looked like Casper with some red lips.
Yeah, with some red lips. And she was just, I don't know. She seemed and she looked. And if I offend people, I offend people. I don't care. I'm not a Swiftie. Team B all the day, all the way. But she just seemed like she was either under the influence of something or just lacked appreciation and gratitude for the space that she was in. It was like a classic case of I've won so many times.
It doesn't even matter.
It doesn't even matter. It doesn't even faze me.
Yeah.
And like, she was up there, I think, for Album of the Year. Celine Dion presented the award to her. And she didn't even acknowledge Celine Dion.
Yeah, I heard those rumblings.
She
even
didn't
the Swifties
acknowledge
was mad
her.
at that.
Like, do you understand? Like, you're in the presence of greatness, like vocally at least, and like didn't even just take a moment, like Miley Cyrus did with Mariah. That, and that's what you do. Like, these are people who paved the way
pay
for
homage.
you to be, right, to be able to pay homage. So, interesting perspective that you have on that. I don't disagree. I don't disagree with what you said, and what he was disruptive, and he created an uncomfortable environment.
And then what will
all
change
those
after
people.
this? Nothing.
That's the thing.
The Grammys even posted his speech on their page.
Yeah,
they're unfazed, child.
They are.
It is.
They're just happy to have a man with dreadlocks.
They're just happy to have our culture be
diversity.
A part of the mix. Exactly, and that's it. And I feel like that's all it's ever going to be for the Grammys. As far as Taylor Swift is concerned, I have nothing for her. I really just, I'm not, obviously not a Swiftie. I don't know any of her albums. Right. It's just completely, it's not even a part of my generation. I don't know. Like, she's just not on my radar.
Not in my world, like at all.
It's just not in my world. But I do know that if she's not a part of my world, then in my opinion, she's not as crossover. And you have to think about, when you're thinking about, record of the year impact. Yeah. And of course, by, population standards, there are more obviously white people than there are Black people. So if more of her fans buy her albums, then statistically, like, it's going to be way more than like what Beyonce can sell or any other, Black artist, because the numbers are just in her favor, but from my perspective around Beyonce's album is it was very transcendent across all people. White male, female, Latino, gay, straight, everybody. So it was more of an album that was, inclusive and what do you call it? Like intersectional. To me, than a Taylor Swift album. Now that could just be, I don't know what her shows look like, but I just think that she has the numbers. She obviously has the privilege, not to say that she hasn't worked hard, because she obviously has, but she also is not having to fight against the systems that have been in place that make Black and brown people have to work 10 times harder, be 10 times stronger, 10 times smarter, and 10 times more creative than her. So that's just my take on that.
You're not wrong. You're not wrong at all. Okay. And then we are running over.
We can end this.
I
You want to
know.
talk about this border? I know you want to talk about this
I want
border
to talk about
situation.
this border situation. Listen, I was watching my Black-owned TV, and I saw something that I thought was just really interesting, and it's just kind of been stuck with me. So I'll share it briefly. But I don't know if you know, but there's a alleged border issue that's going on.
Alleged.
Where we have, and we live in the great state of Texas, where, we have a governor that has put buoys and barbed wire across the entire border, which is hundreds of miles long, to prevent migrants from making their way across the Rio Grande River into the great state of Texas in pursuit of the American dream and self-determination. But as I was watching my Black-owned TV yesterday, I did learn that there is about a 4-foot stretch of land in California, on the San Diego, like near San Diego, where the border stops. Not the border, but like the wall, the fence stops. And it butts up against rocks, but they didn't build to the rocks. 4 feet wide. And there are anywhere between 500 to 2,000 Chinese migrants who come daily to this border crossing. And they come around the fence.
Yep.
Just come around, come through the hole, make sure they don't hit the barbed wire. And this is in California again, but they come around and they walk past a border patrol agent and they throw their passports and their papers on the ground.
Oh, they do?
Yeah, because they come from China. That's 4,000 miles from China to that actual location. And to get from China to South America and going through the various countries in South America, and they can move legally through South America and Central America with their papers and get their passports stamped. But when they get to the U.S.,
they throw
their paper or their passport
on the Mexico side,
Mexico or the U.S. side.
Okay,
and they come around this. They come through this 4-foot gap, walk past the border patrol agent, and then keep walking until they go to the vans, where they get collected by Border Patrol with no papers, and they're able to
Border Patrol collects them?
In a van, yes.
Oh, okay.
But they walk past an agent who's not, like, stopping them.
Because there's a Border Patrol van waiting for them.
Correct. But, like, nobody's stopping them from if you're in Texas, they're trying to stop you from coming into the U.S.
Yeah.
And if they can't because they're not going into the water, they're letting you come across and then they're collecting you. But there's an agent there.
So they're trying to, so Texas, they're trying to stop people from coming altogether.
Yes.
Okay.
And then they'll take them to some type of cage that Trump set up.
Yeah.
But in this case, they are going to a location where they can get processed and they can seek asylum. And they're able to get their appointments a lot faster than the folks coming from South and or Central or
and through Texas
and Mexico, right, into Texas. And 9 times out of 10, these people are actually able to get processed. And the reason why they are saying that this is happening is because there are far fewer visas being issued. They used to issue anywhere from 2 to 2.2 million visas for Chinese citizens in 2019. But as tensions have grown between China and the U.S., they're only doing hundreds of thousands.
Okay.
Right. And so the U.S., though, when you think of when they were following them, they were saying a lot of these folks do actually get the asylum in comparison to folks coming from Central and South America. And you got to ask yourself why.
Why what?
Why are more Chinese people being able to get that political asylum status compared to people coming from El Salvador, Venezuela, or Mexico, or other war-torn or politically ravaged countries in Central or South America?
Yeah. Well, they're making this and they, mean Republicans, are making the border
So
situation
we're clear.
like the boogeyman. And so I had seen, so there was this standoff at the Texas border, and they are, they have been saying, oh, it's going to be a civil war in Texas, because basically the federal government controls our borders and determines what happens at the borders. Well, Hot Wheels, our governor, went and put the barbed wire up
and the buoys
that had been injuring and unfortunately killing people. So President Biden was just like, okay, no, this has to stop. So they took it to the Supreme Court. Supreme Court ruled on the favor of the federal government and said, hey, the federal government is in charge of our borders. Like if they say remove it, remove it. Well, he doubled down and Hot Wheels and decided that he was not going to remove them, right? Follows the orders of the Supreme Court. And so now they're all kind of like truckers and Trumpsters going down to the border, I guess, to see what the hell is going on, to obviously participate in the civil war that they've been living in their basements, their parents' basements, preparing their whole lives for. And there are reporters that obviously go down there to interview these people.
Yeah.
And so, he was interviewing them and they were like, well, what do you think about the border? And she was just like, well, it's odd. It's not as bad as I thought it would be. Like, there are not that many people coming.
Surprise.
Well, duh. Like, there are not that many people coming across our border like that. Like, they want to make it seem like hundreds of thousands of people are bum rushing the border every day.
Right.
And that's just not the case. But in terms of just why a certain group is getting asylum quicker or more,
well, we know why.
Than another group is we absolutely know why. We know why. So we don't have to call a thing for it to be a thing.
And I think we need to also just be very mindful of the fact that, like, to be able to make it from where you are, whether you're in Venezuela, whether you're in China, it's like they said it's $14,000 for them to make their way from China.
It's a trip. It's a trip.
This is money. Like this is real money. And these are not like just people who are, fighting their way through. Like these are people who have saved, who have worked, and so I don't know, like
who have set their sights on it.
Right. Yeah.
But there's a lot happening right now. And I know that also too, like some cities with mayors are asking people to take migrants into their homes and so I think that's a bridge too far.
Yeah, that's too far.
They're getting vouchers and housing. I get, there's not anywhere to house these people, but there's so many homeless people also in the United States that can use that benefit. So I don't know. It's a mess. I don't know how they're gonna figure it out, child. But
answers.
We don't have the answers, but it is a mess. So
do we have an announcement?
We do. A huge announcement. So I know we've been talking a lot about big things popping and coming up with Champagne Wives podcast. And so Nicole and I are very happy to announce that we are hosting our first live events. Yay! Nicole, why don't you go ahead and tell them the details?
I'm so excited. If you can't tell, I'm so excited. So it's going to be a live episode that we're recording. We're super excited about it. It's going to be March 1st, location to be communicated shortly. We will communicate all the details on social, but it's going to be an entrepreneurial showcase where we have females who are movers and shakers in the Houston area who share their stories about entrepreneurship and how they worked hard, potentially overcame challenges to get to where they are, and really just sharing their stories around how they've been able to accomplish what they've accomplished and not lose their sense of self along the way, which is right on brand with our podcast and everything that we stand for.
Yeah, this has been a huge labor of love and something that we have been planning for, talking about, and manifesting for a while now. And so we are really happy and excited that this is finally happening in less than a month. And we hope to see all of our listeners and the people that support us there. There'll be giveaways. There'll be great conversation. There'll be music. There'll be light bites. And of course, there'll be champagne.
Yes, we can't wait. Package information will be available on the link that's in the flyer that we'll get on social media. We can't wait to interact with you. This will be our first time getting a chance to connect with you all. And so y'all show up and show out and don't disappoint. More details to follow. But yes, March 1st. Can't wait to see y'all. And I think that's it for our episode.
That's it for our episode. Okay. So follow us, Champagne Wives Podcast.
Look at you.
Oh, girl, look, I'm stuck. Follow us on IG at Champagne Wives Podcast. And
TikTok at Champagne Wives Podcast, YouTube, run up the episodes, email us if you have any questions, especially with this live that's coming up. Make sure you email us at champagnewivespodcast@gmail.com. We will personally address any questions that you have. Can't wait to see y'all, and we'll see you next week.
Same time, same place. Bye, y'all.
Bye.